You're listening to the Play Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks, your source for centered and focused play therapy coaching.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brenna Hicks, the Kid Counselor. This is the Play Therapy Podcast where you get a masterclass in child-centered play therapy and practical support and application for your work with children and their families. In today's episode, we are talking about fixing play, which comes from the control and safety themes. And last week we talked about broken play, so it only makes sense that then we cover fixing play today. So they definitely can be seen in conjunction with each other, and typically broken play is the means to an end for fixing play. So you almost always will see them paired up because obviously it's difficult to fix something if something isn't broken in the first place. So you will often see brokenness only emerge as a means to an end so that fixing play is the theme, or sometimes broken theme exists and then it transitions into fixing theme. So that's an important note because sometimes you will see a child say, "This is broken," but that's the extent of the dialogue and then they immediately get to fixing it. So that is clearly fixing play versus a child consistently playing out brokenness and then transitioning into fixing play. So we need to make sure that we understand that separation and note that in our documentation appropriately. So let's look at specifically what fixing play is, and then we'll look at some possible meanings for the child too. So fixing play is essentially whenever something is broken, the child will work to fix it, or a character in their play is working to fix it. And so this can include anything that requires gluing, taping, stapling, doctoring of any kind. So if an animal breaks their paw, or if a character gets run over, any kind of doctoring play, if it is specifically in the attempt to fix something that is broken, that is important because remember, we talked about nurturing and caregiving play, and that doctor play can go with nurturing and caregiving. That is very unique and distinct from the fixing play of doctoring. So, oh no, the cat has a thorn in its paw. That would be the fixing play. The dog has a broken leg. Fixing play. So it's very important that we understand what the goal is in the play, whether it's nurturing and caregiving or whether it's fixing. So gluing, stapling, taping, doctoring. Then also anytime they use a toolkit, you should absolutely have a toolkit in your playroom. If you don't, Amazon is your friend. So make sure, or garage sales or thrift stores, wherever, you don't even have to buy it new, but make sure that you have some toolkits in your playroom because that is often the way that they will fix tangible things. So sometimes for example, my sand tray is wooden, and I've had kids crawl under the sand tray and get their tools. And it's almost like they're a mechanic laying under the belly of a car, which is kind of fun because they're literally underneath the sand tray looking up and they're pretending to work on the screws and, fixing the sand tray. Sometimes they will fix the dollhouse. I'm air quoting fix the dollhouse. And so they'll go over and they'll work on the screws on the dollhouse, but they typically use the toolkit to do that. So you definitely need to be aware of the fixing and the way that that manifests itself. However, I want to kind of unpack this a little bit. This is not the same thing as rescuing play, because rescue is always tied to endangerment. So someone is in danger and therefore they need to be rescued. Fixing play is something is broken and it needs to be fixed. So that is distinct from the fixing play. And fixing play can also involve when a child decides that a toy is broken or is not working, or the toy itself needs to be repaired. That also goes under the fixing play. In the training program that I run, I actually had one of the participants a couple weeks back post in our chat group about a scenario in her play session. And she said, I wasn't really sure how to categorize this. And if you could just give me some insight into the themes that you might think are going on based on what I've shared. And she was kind of going all around these other themes and said, I just feel like he's fixing something. And I was like, yes, it's fixing theme. So sometimes we are not necessarily aware that that is a theme, but it's a very prominent theme actually. And again, brokenness and fixing kind of go hand in hand sometimes. So possible meanings to the child. Sometimes it can be the way the child is interpreting the therapeutic process. And what I mean by that is, obviously, when a child comes to therapy, they sometimes understand that things are getting fixed. They just don't really know why, how, or what's happening. So they are instinctively aware that healing is taking place, fixing is taking place, that they came in a less desirable state and they're starting to feel that they're in a more desirable state. So they're aware at a subconscious level that healing and fixing is taking place. However, it kind of becomes a metaphor, if you will. So therapeutically speaking, then, they're seeing the process as fixing them. And so that's a pretty deep theme, a deep meaning for the child when they're playing out this theme. I'm not sure if that is the most consistent one, but there are definitely times when you can tell that a child is aware that this is a journey and that they are using fixing play as a metaphor for fixing themselves. And I'm air quoting that because I don't think kids are broken. I don't think they need to be fixed. And that's the principles of the child-centered model, right? They're not broken. There's nothing wrong with them. So I don't like that wording, but to a child's mind without abstract reasoning, I was bad, I was broken, I needed fixing, and I'm starting to see evidence of that. So that is one potential meaning. Second is they actually have a deep-rooted desire to feel okay. They want to be fixed, if we can use that term. They want to be better. They want to be happier. They want to be healed. So sometimes it's birthed out of a deep desire to be okay. I mean, we've talked about this in earlier episodes, right? And if you are new, please go back and listen to them in order because a lot of this thematic stuff won't make sense without all of the backstory that you need from the earlier episodes. But we've talked about this so often, right? Kids don't want to stay stuck. Kids would never choose to stay in a dysregulated state, in a broken state, in a sad state, in an angry state, in a scared state. No human does, but kids specifically, no one wants to stay stuck. So of course, a child has a deep-rooted need to be okay, but sometimes they don't have the time, the tools, and the opportunity to get there. So once therapy begins, once the child-centered play therapy process starts, and they're in the playroom each week, they are feeling that shift. And so it obviously is about being fixed. And that's an air quote again, because I don't really like that word, but if we're talking about fixing theme, I have to use it. So here's another option. Sometimes when a child gets a little too out of control or goes a little too far or gets a little too dysregulated or was a little bit too aggressive or whatever. So, I mean, you can imagine, right? The child just kind of takes things and pushes boundaries in a whole bunch of different capacities. Sometimes the fixing play comes on the heels of it because they're trying to basically undo whatever play they thought maybe was unacceptable or too much. So let's say they shoot you, then they realize, oh gosh, I really like this person and I have a relationship with this person and I don't want them to think badly of me and I don't want them to think that I would want to hurt them. And so none of these are cognitive thoughts. It's just kind of the subconscious grindings of discomfort, right? And so then they're like, well, I'll be the doctor and I'll fix you. So that will often happen. And this actually happened yesterday. So it was perfect timing to do this episode today. So I had a little boy in with me and he had a whole bunch of characters in the sand and they were all in a battle. And so one by one, the characters would come in to fight the two that had been consistently in there. So two characters were in the tray at all times. And then it was like one by one, all of these opponents would come and try to fight these two guys. Well, one that was brought in was a phoenix. So really cool miniature. By the way, related aside, and I don't get any kind of kickback from this. I have no affiliate relationship with them. So this is truly just because I love them. Safari Limited, if you need miniatures for your sand tray, and if you do sand play with kids, go to Safari Limited and get their miniatures. Holy moly, they're amazing. They are so detailed. They are so sturdy. They hold up. They are, oh my gosh, I love, love, love them. And if I could spend thousands of dollars, I would have nothing but Safari Limited miniatures on my shelves. So just a public service announcement for you. Safari Limited is absolutely amazing, and they have incredible miniatures. So that said, I had a Safari Limited Phoenix, and typically Safari Limited toys are unbreakable. They are made of this really cool material. They can be thrown and chucked and stepped on, and they are as sturdy as it comes, which is why I love them, and they're so detailed and amazing. Well, my child was playing with a Phoenix, and it has like fire for wings, and it's like this really cool like red and orange and yellow bird and whatever. Well, the Phoenix comes in to fight these two guys, and the two guys chuck him out of the sand tray. Well, the Phoenix slams into the wall, slams onto the floor, and breaks into like 3 pieces, which Safari Limited miniatures never break. So even I was shocked. I was like, what in the world just happened? And so my kid immediately gets up, gives me a look, runs over, picks up the pieces, and tries to start putting them back together. And he's like, how much was that? I'll give you $5. And starts trying to make amends for the fact that he broke the toy, right? And he tries to fix it. So he's trying to solve the problem of how can I get these wings repaired? Do I glue them? Do I tape them? Can my office manager tape them? Does she have crazy glue? So he's working through this undoing of play that he feared was unacceptable, because this kid plays aggressively, but he does not break toys, and he does not get completely out of control. He is very tempered. And so I think it shocked him, and it shocked me, quite frankly, but he was trying to undo. So sometimes the fixing play comes on the heels of when something has gotten a little too out of control and they're trying to backpedal. And then finally, another option, which kind of takes us in a totally different direction, is the child will sometimes show mastery and competence by fixing things that are broken. So it becomes a self-esteem building theme in its root, because they're essentially showing that they have the knowledge and the skills and the capacity to fix something. And so it puts them in a state of mastery and competence. And, oftentimes that takes many sessions to get there. So, they've been playing very chaotically or very dangerously or recklessly or whatever. And then they will all of a sudden start fixing things to show that they have the capacity to do so and they're capable. So definitely an interesting shift there if it becomes about mastery and competence, because they become the expert, right? So sometimes they'll say, well, I know how to do this, and I just have to take this, and I just have to turn this, and I just have to do this next. And so they give you all of their knowledge in verbal form of how they're going to make amends for everything or to repair something that has gotten broken. So that is fixing play. So I hope that helps you understand what that looks like, and obviously how it relates to broken play, because often they do go together. And then in next week's episode, we're actually going to talk through failure to fix. So it's essentially the polar opposite of fixing play. And when something cannot be fixed, that is a very unique theme as well. So we'll dive into that next time. I'm very grateful for each and every one of you. If you want to reach out to me, Brenna at thekidcounselor.com is the best way to do that. And just so that you are maybe not aware, if you are not, I do have a play therapy parenting podcast. I've only mentioned it a few times, but I have a lot of people that listen to both. And I think you will benefit from both, because it is geared for parents, but it is absolutely rooted in child-centered approach. So if you want to recommend it to the clients with whom you work, the families and the parents of the kids that you see, or if you just want to listen to it as supplementary podcast fodder for your training, that is Play Therapy Parenting Podcast on all podcast episodes. So Thanks very much for spending some time with me this week. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Play Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks. For more episodes and resources, please go to www.playtherapypodcast.com.